Good. Buffalo George, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you, Buffalo brother John?
I am fantastic.
Well, was this not a week in paradise or what?
We had a good week this week, except for the Bills game.
The Bills, did they play this week?
Not very well.
You know what? I got my Three Stooges mug again
Yeah.
because da 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 da. Yuck, 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 yuck. They played terrible.
Yeah.
That is the worst performance I've seen them do since they got beat up by the Indianapolis Colts a few years ago, and
Yeah.
that guy Logan ran all over him.
Jonathan Taylor?
Jonathan Taylor,
Okay.
also known as Logan in my head.
It's okay. It's
Living in my
okay.
head as Logan, but
Okay.
Jonathan Taylor. That was, from top to bottom, inside out, front and back, upside down, right side up. It just was bad in every phase of the game.
Yep.
And I got to tell you, in my opinion, yes, your players are the ones that are out there on the field, but it's the coaching staff that sets the game plan. It's the coaching staff that gets them motivated and keeps them in positions to win. And I think this was a coaching failure from top of, all the way down to the very bottom coaching level. And I'm going to have to put it there.
Okay.
When it comes to offense, defense, and special teams, it was just a failure on all three levels.
I don't disagree with you at all, except for one little thing. I don't believe that a player making literally $1 million a year should need to be motivated by a coach. Not at that level. They have to be able to self motivate. And then with amongst the teams, they have their own team leaders and stuff. If the team doesn't have team leaders,
Well, but it's a coach.
That's it.
Don't you see that if the motivation isn't there, you got to shake things up, sit that guy on the bench, do whatever you got to do, embarrass him in practice, whatever you got to do to get his motivation level back. Those guys were just walking through the motions. They were walking through a slow dream, and it was
yeah,
just horrible.
yeah, I'm not entirely sure what game you saw, but no, I don't agree with that. If a
Okay.
player, at the worst I could say from that particular aspect would be if you've got a player that literally is walking through the motions, you picked the wrong player.
All right.
They had 90 guys on the roster.
Isn't
They
that
didn't pick
still
the
a
right ones.
coaching option? And besides, you're not disregarding
The
the
performance.
coach's
No,
the
no.
coach's responsibility
The
here.
one aspect of that I just don't think that coaches should be responsible at that level.
Okay, well that's
Motivated
that's an
players.
opinion, and I respect it.
Yeah, that's up. But everything else, I thought I agree with you.
Okay, all right.
We're gonna start.
Where do you start? We were talking. Are they pretenders or contenders? And honestly, I gotta tell you, here's what's deep inside me. I still think they're contenders. I think this really showed the holes we had before even the draft, and none of those have been plugged. We didn't have a number one or a number two receiver. We were gonna
Still don't.
we were gonna feed everybody's gonna feed, but we still don't have a number one or a number two receiver. We were gonna throw over the middle, and Dalton Kincaid was gonna lead us to the promised land. He's not even breaking 50 yards a game. Shakir, he got injured in this game. Is he going to be good to go? I don't know. Our center got injured in this game. Is he going to be good to go? I don't know. We already got, we're already thin at linebacker, and now we don't even know what safeties to put in there. Then we went out there and got a guy off somebody's practice squad, a defensive tackle. Sounds like a good guy. It was 6th-round pick of somebody this year. And they found him on a practice squad and they snitched him up. Hopefully, what I'm hearing is maybe he can help plug the run gap. But if he wasn't good enough to make the starting team on the Minnesota Vikings, why is he going to make it here? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Bean is just going through the motions of what he can do, and they really know and they realize this team, without an improvement in that defense, with those players coming back, they're in trouble.
Yeah. So where to begin? I'll start with your last thing first. They went out. So Von Miller has been suspended. for 4
Mhm.
games. They've taken that roster spot
Mhm.
and filled it with a guy they pulled off a practice squad off another team.
Right.
He was a 6th round pick, so the Bills themselves had plenty of opportunity to draft him and didn't, which is fine. But if he also didn't make the 53-man roster on the squad he was on, the idea that he's going to come in and help them in any way would just be shocking. You know, that he will come in and be make any kind of a difference is shocking. He was a 6th round pick. Whoever picked him, it picked him up to work on their special teams.
Mhm.
They just picked up a special teamer. But he's going to get a 3 or 4 week. It's effectively a 4 week tryout.
Mhm.
After that time, they could put him to their practice squad, or they could just straight up cut him. And so we'll see if we even see him play defense. They may only have him. They may only use him in practice.
Yeah, it might be a thing that they thought, this has nothing to do with everything else going on. He's
Yeah.
just a good guy. We think that maybe we'd like to see if what he's got, and they're just gonna try him out.
During the preseason, they obviously were watching other teams' games. They picked up the
Mhm.
fella Codrington through a
Right.
trade.
That's
Maybe they spotted something in this kid in the preseason and was like, maybe we should have drafted him. They got another opportunity here to get him in.
that's right.
And so
Somebody
it's like
maybe they liked in there.
it's kind of a 4 week tryout,
Mhm.
really. But the idea that he might come in and make any kind of a difference in their run stopping ability is laughable.
Okay. So, but where do we go on defense? I'm hearing that one of these guys is practicing a little bit. And to be honest with you, I can't remember. I think it's Ron Johnson.
An injured player?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're thinking Terrell Bernard, maybe?
I think maybe, yeah.
Or
One of them.
Taron Johnson.
One
Okay.
of them, and I can't remember which.
No, that's fine. Okay, so there's always the possibility
I
that
think
he
it was
could return.
Bernard was maybe practicing some, and Johnson wasn't yet, and that helps. Milano ain't coming back for a long time, so don't get your heart set on that.
Rap is out now. We don't know how long, but he's got a concussion.
Yeah, so they got the rookie in there.
Presumably, Cole Bishop will play if Rap can't go, but we don't really know that. Maybe it'll be Edwards.
And week after week, we hear the announcers talking about how many tackles that Cam Lewis has made, and Cam Lewis did this good, and I watch a game, I see him missing tackle after tackle after tackle, and I don't see where they're talking about how he's performing so well. I think he looks like a backup's backup to me, and he's performing the best he can.
Well, it wasn't an accident that he's been a backup for his whole career.
Mm-hmm.
That's not an accident.
Right.
So on the first play, Derrick Henry runs 87 yards for a touchdown. Apparently, like there was a stadium full of about 80,000 people. Some Bills fans, my son was in the stands.
Yes, right.
There's 53, 40 some 47 guys dressed for the Bills, plus a handful of coaches or whatever. Only the Bills team did not realize that their first play would be a run. They was just what? They ran the ball. That's a shock.
You got two guys that are in the top 10 runners of the league in Henry and Lamar Jackson, and you're wondering if they might run the ball.
Yeah. So on the play, of course, he didn't get touched. Everybody's blocked. And then he's trying.
They didn't touch him. He would have crushed him. Didn't matter who he would have banged into.
Trying to make it to the end zone, and they got guys that right running after him. But the guys that got running after them are undrafted free agents, late round picks, which is why they can't catch him.
Yeah.
Like there's a difference in quality of player here between that. Derrick Henry was a first round pick for a reason.
Yeah, I mean,
and it shows.
The speed and the skill set is not there
and it's not,
to compete against a guy that's going to go into the Hall of Fame. It's just not there.
So look.
So I was wrong about saying the Bills were going to win. I was so far off that I have to apologize for that call. That was way off.
You had started by saying, I don't know what you said. You didn't say it. I'm not panicking. How did you put it?
Well, I said we're not panicking. You mean this week? What I just said?
Yeah, like after
Yeah,
this
I
game,
still think that they're a contender.
contender.
Because you got to look at the competition they got to play. They're not playing many teams like the power that we saw, but certainly when they get to the playoffs, there could be an issue.
Look, New York State has that fair, New York State Fair every year.
Mm-hmm.
This team should compete for the pig contest. Like you put a bow on a pig. That's the only thing that
Yeah,
I picked them to be 9-8. I picked them to be really 500.
yeah,
And I gave them that one extra game because there's 17 games.
right.
I think they're still on track for that.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think they're still on track for 11 wins, and that's fine.
Well, I haven't seen anything to say take them off yet. For me, for them to be 11 wins, they can only have 5 losses. They've only got one, and I'm looking at the schedule, and I'm not sure that I'm coming up with 4 more losses.
Well, let me put it to you this way. So we've heard some stuff like the Baltimore Ravens are uniquely situated and developed where they really hit Buffalo, where Buffalo tends to be weak. They're a really strong running team and they're a very physical team. Now, in the past, sometimes the Bills have been called a finesse team and not a physical team, but I kind of thought they were past that. But we have known, you and I have talked for years, the scheme that they use, which they use nickel almost all the time, can be exposed by a good running team. And we've seen that this year, not just with Henry, but so here's where I'm going with that is just I don't think that this Baltimore team is uniquely suited to attack the Bills defense. I think we saw some glimpses of what was coming when they played the Cardinals, and Connor was running up and down the field on him in that first half. I think they couldn't stop A Chain against Miami. Jacksonville's got ETN, and to be honest with you, I thought he had a nice day, but
They were so far behind.
yeah,
They were.
that team was just not what I thought they were.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't like they he wasn't touched. Yeah, that's not just him being special. That is a real problem with the combination of this is what you chose to do as far as what defense you were going to play, and these are the fellows you got filling it.
Yeah.
I think there's a real problem there that the guys they got filling it are not able to do it well or well enough. And the scheme that they're playing, they're utilizing, it is weak to the run. It is set up to be to stop the pass a bit more and to be, and as a consequence, they are got run over by Baltimore. But you should get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
This is this team. Every single team they play is going to try to run against them, and a lot are going to be successful.
Let me tell you something, and we've said this before to everybody. This channel is a channel about the Bills by Bills fans,
right, right.
for Bills fans. We are not here blowing smoke on anybody's hoo-ha or saying they're trying to give the Buffalo Bills side of it. So,
we don't make excuses.
We don't make it. No, that was a poor game. And I got to tell you, when I looked at the coaching, and you pointed out during the game, you're like, okay, watch Josh Allen. He takes a step back and he throws to his left. Then he takes a back. Then he's throwing a 1-yard pass. And then he takes it back. And he throws to the left. Then he takes it back. He throws to. How are you going to get the ball down the field?
Yes, I did point out, you were like, why is he throwing downfield? And this is their odd. I think we're looking at the great offense. He stretches the field from sideline to sideline. And it took a couple of games for defenses to be like, oh, now we know what you're doing. Okay, and we can stop that.
When everybody was eating, right? We're all going to eat. They had all kinds of motion. They were dictating to the opposing defenses. You may line up in the defense you want to play, but now we're moving guys around and we're changing plays and we're doing whatever. And we're now, you as a defense are on your heels trying to figure out what are we really going to do. We went up to the line. You thought you knew what the Bills were going to do. Now, what are they really doing? We didn't see any of that in this game. They went up to the line, they hiked the ball, and in came the charge like a light brigade. What the Brown? He looked like a rusty gate out there. Spencer
He
Brown.
returned to his rusty gate
Oh
state.
my gosh!
Look, there are two reasons really that teams use motion. One is to identify the defense, which is I think what you're talking about. But the other thing is to you could put a Stephon Diggs in motion and get him a easy release off the. No one can muscle him up at the line of scrimmage. You could get him behind a wide receiver and then they swap or whatever. So but as from a standpoint of why didn't they use motion? Well, they did not need motion to know what Baltimore was going to do. Baltimore never tried to fool them.
No, right. They knew what Baltimore
They
was
knew
going
what
to do.
Baltimore was going to do.
They didn't try to change what Baltimore thought they could do to them.
Now,
And they didn't.
I don't know.
That's my feeling.
I don't know what everybody watches out there. There's a fella, I think it's Marino was his name. Lockdown Bills.
Okay.
Is the podcast.
Good.
Yeah. We haven't seen the all 22. Around Tuesday, he came out with a video where he had looked at the all 22. And one of the things he pointed out was like the Bills predominantly play nickel, which is not great against a team that's really going to run. It's not like it's designed to help put a defensive in position to try to stop the pass. Well, but they play nickel. That's what they do. When Baltimore started running up and down the field on them, they went the whole first half. They never made a change. It wasn't until midway through the third quarter where they finally changed their scheme and went to three linebackers. It didn't work. They still ran over them, but it was almost like this is what we got. We don't want to go to three linebackers because we think we'll be worse. And I don't know that they were worse, but it didn't work. It didn't stop. And I don't know if Taron Johnson, as good of a tackler he is, I don't know that he would have made a difference. There's a number of issues here.
Well, maybe he would have stayed in his gap. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he would have. But we sometimes hear that because he's so good, he may be one of the top two or three slot cornerbacks in the league, and he's so good at tackling that's how they get away with only having two linebackers for 95% of the plays.
Yeah, right.
I get that. That's fine, but they don't have him. He's injured right now, and the backup wasn't able to back that up and do that maybe as well as he could have. But they also couldn't. They didn't have no linebacker. They never tried five linemen. They just kept running. What was the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Baltimore showed them, till you change, we're not going to change.
That's right.
And they did. They just crushed them. Yeah. So, all right. So let's do, if you don't have anything urgent, let's do our grades. We've been doing grades.
Okay.
And it'd be unfair to not give this a grade.
Okay.
What would you like to get? Do you want to start with special teams?
Sure. Special teams, I give a C.
Okay.
I know everything failed, but there was another missed kick by
that was unfortunate.
Bass.
Yeah.
This is not a total special teams issue. This is a kicker issue. The Bills are going to have to address this. I don't know when. Maybe it's not this year, but the special teams is actually playing pretty decent outside of Bass.
Yeah, I know. In last week's game, whatever it was that he missed, it was a PAT or whatever. There was some thought somebody blocked it.
PAT and a field goal last week.
But when we were looking at it, we felt that from the end zone view, it looked pretty clear. The ball didn't get up. The guy who got his hand on it last week.
He hit it low.
Right? He put his hands up, but he just stood there. He didn't jump. The kick was low. This week he just missed it. I mean, he missed it, and that was it 50%. It is what it is. He is not one of the best kickers in the league by any means, and I'm not sure what they need to do with it. But he's a problem right now.
It was a 47-yard field goal.
47 to 40. He had made a 50
Wasn't
and
that
then
like
he missed a
wasn't
48.
that like the Norwood kick? Wasn't that about 47
He
yards?
was Scott Norwood's miss was a 47 yarder. Yeah.
And it today's game, that's a pretty common field goal to make.
Yeah.
Yes, they could certainly could miss
it.
one, but you can't miss field goal after field goal, week after week, extra point, muffed kick out of bounds. The whole thing's a breakdown for this guy. He's not sharp on all aspects. He's not bad on every play, but he's bad on enough plays in all different types of plays
Yeah.
that there's an issue.
Yeah, the kickoff issues during the spring.
I gotta say, he's a D at best on a C.
Yeah, yeah.
A C,
Irvington didn't get much opportunities to do much with the ball. So some of this may be because they didn't have many opportunities to run with it or whatnot. So we never really got to see what the kickoff team could do. The punt return team, they took a lot of what do you call
Fair
it?
catch.
Fair catch, yeah. Took a lot of fair catch.
Waving to the crowd.
that's
Hi, everybody.
All right. What do you think for the offense? What do you get the offense?
The D, the downright D. That offensive line, which has been, I think, their strength the first 3 games, just was a total breakdown, and they almost got their quarterback killed.
Yeah, that is a D.
And nobody was really, like you said, getting open until Josh was under so much pressure he couldn't even find these guys. That's how much pressure he was under.
Last year, the offensive line, the starters played almost every snap. They started every game and they played almost every snap. And that was a good thing. That's always a good thing. But we were a little suspicious of some of the stats. They're talking about the pass back, sack per pass, number of sacks per passing attempts, and even number of pressures per passing attempts and how good the offensive line was. But we were kind of looking at like one, we saw Spencer Brown getting help with a tight end all the time. Somebody on a tight end was chipping before Brown even had to touch this guy, before his defensive end. But as an offense, they did a decent job. We also saw, we thought, Allen would identify a guy coming in, a defensive lineman coming in, and just take off. Now, he often can either get yards with his feet or he can make a play. So it wasn't necessarily a drive killer, but we thought we were a little suspicious of the statistics and how good they looked with the statistics because they thought Allen was kind of making up for some of their issues. And this game, they just had issues. Allen couldn't make up for it. All right.
I gotta bring up the center. The center got injured. And they brought in Edwards.
Or they moved Edwards
over to hike the ball. Now, John, he didn't hike very.
No.
Hike, low hike. John,
and it helped me. So a quarterback who has a bad hand.
You got to tell me.
Yeah.
They drafted a guy who was a center, Cedric Van Pran Granger.
Yes.
Here's a guy, whether you think he has the same skill level or not yet, because he's a rookie, on pass blocking or run blocking or whatever, he's had to have hiked the ball 1,000 times in his career in college. Why aren't you using a guy that knows how to hike a ball instead of a guy who's not a center?
I think I have the answer.
Afraid to hear it, but I'm listening. I'm listening.
As bad as the pressure was, as much pressure as they let in, it would only be worse with Granger.
That's it. I don't know if that. I know that's probably how you feel, and I certainly understand. I just don't know. We don't know what's on the Bills management mind. We just don't know. But they drafted a guy who's a center to be a backup to the center, and they're not using him, and that's got me concerned. Is it another bad pick on Bean?
One of the things that you've made the assumption that they drafted him to be a center, and you don't know that
because they're not using him.
Well,
they used him in preseason as a center.
They also used him in preseason as a guard.
Yeah, they did.
So I think what you saw there was in their mind he's a guard. and he's truly an emergency center after your top two go down.
And after you
Which
lost your starting center, you had to let him go because of the payroll. And you're moving a guy over,
you're talking about
yeah,
Morris.
Morris, and now you're moving another guy over who used to be a center for a while. He liked being a center, but he was played as a guard. He likes being a center. And you draft a guy to be the backup or the future center, and you don't draft a center that you think can be a center. I mean, where in the brains are we is being going with this?
Yeah. Look, he's a fourth round pick. He is a flyer, but he's they're just taking a chance with them. And the scouting reports kind of led everyone to believe, except for you, that he's probably destined to be guard.
Mhm.
That's probably where his future is. But he's valuable because he's versatile. He maybe could play guard, but he could be your third backup center. So he's versatile.
Well, that's what we used this week when they moved Edwards over.
Mhm.
He's no better than a third backup center,
Well,
and it showed.
I understand that's the evaluation,
Mhm.
but he apparently is their backup. Like that, that's their guy. That's their
Yeah.
second string. All right. George, I'm sorry to have to do this to you.
Defense.
You have to give a grade for the defense.
Defense was an F, and if I could do minuses, it would be they stunk.
Yeah.
They had, excuse me, they had no pressure on the quarterback at any time. Did they have pressure on the quarterback?
Well, yeah.
At no time did they stop the run game. Did they plug holes? Did they take up people so their linebackers could come in and plug holes?
Yeah.
And in the passing game, the safety were just running around. They were in total chaos, but not chaos to disrupt the offense. They were in chaos because they acted like they didn't know what they were supposed to be doing. They were reacting. They were just reacting to what was going on around them instead of dictating play to the offense. They didn't take away any plays. They just they played off the receivers. They came in to tackle to keep things in front of them. They missed tackles.
So you have your first line of your defense, which is your defensive linemen. You have your second line, maybe your linebackers, maybe that slot corner, and then you got your third line, which is your safeties. You, I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree. Like I do kind of wonder, like there were times that Baltimore had offensive linemen taking on safeties. So some of that I think is they might have been a little confused, but I also think they were like, I'm not supposed to have to deal with this guy. He outweighs me by 150 pounds when I'm
Yeah,
soaking wet.
it's like how
Like,
did he get
how
out
am
here?
I supposed to deal with this?
Yeah,
And in the meantime, Dirk Henry or anyone else.
yeah.
That's wrong. It's some guy named
Right.
Bill. Who's he? I don't know, but he ran right past him.
How did this offensive guard get down here, down
Like,
20
what are
yards
they doing
downfield?
here? Yeah, like what the heck? So that's and then yeah, so that's it. I agree with an F. It was a stinker. I gotta ask you another question.
Yeah,
We saw the post-game press conferences. You're already laughing.
I know that. I know McDermott said we're going to learn from this
Mhm.
again. He said that, hey,
Again,
we're going to
we're
learn
gonna
from
watch the
this.
tape.
We're going to learn from this.
Learn from this. Somebody asked, I don't remember if it was Babbage or McDermott. They asked, a loss like this, is that something that's kind of good for you?
Is it better to happen now or later?
When the opposing team, when the bully on the block takes your lunch,
Mhm.
makes you leads you by the nose back home, and then spanks you in front of your own mother. I mean, no, that's not good for you. No,
Not a good look.
there's nothing. You watch this tape. There's nothing they're going to learn from this. All right, what did you think of? I gotta ask you. We saw Babbage's.
Learn from this. That's
You,
right. They learned how bad they are.
you saw Babbage's interview. What did you think of it?
I think he fumbled and bubbled his way over um, answering questions to the media about he tried to take the full blame of everything was me. I got to do a better
Okay,
job. I
hold
got to
on,
do a
hold
better
on.
job.
Babbage is the defensive coordinator, not Brady. Babbage
Oh,
blamed.
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm confusing the guys. I
Yeah,
apologize, everyone. Babbage blame the players.
he did everything but come right out and say this guy wasn't watching where he should be. He wasn't in position he should have been.
If you're
They,
if you're in the right position, if you stay in the right position, sooner or later the play's going to come to you, or you're going to find the
and
ball or
then you
something.
got to make the play. He blamed the players.
You
Yes, he
absolutely
did.
did.
Yeah, yeah. No, he didn't name it by name, but he blamed the players.
Yeah, I think you did too.
And they asked him, like, well, what do you start? Is it fundamentals?
You know, blocking and tackling.
Well, no, 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 no. I hear you. That's what I thought he was going to say.
Yeah.
No, no.
No.
He said they weren't looking in the right spot.
Yes, they weren't looking at the right
He has to
location.
teach them
Where to look.
where to look. So
If you want to see the guy with the ball, you got to look where he is and where he's going. You can't look at the girl in the stands. I don't know what he was talking about.
could you
I don't
imagine the
know.
players running off the field and rap, and he's pulling rap aside, like, rap, what are you doing? He's like, I'm sorry. I was looking at Oliver's ass.
I wasn't looking at.
It was such a nice ass. I was looking at that.
wasn't looking.
I totally I didn't know where to look, coach. I couldn't figure that out.
Help me out, please.
Yeah,
Where should I
teach me where to look.
Yeah.
So if you are a football player and you don't on a football field and you started playing tackle football at 12 years old, now you're 26 and you haven't figured out where to look,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to hang up the cleats. But he did indeed blame the players. I think that they have a real issue with scheme, and he doesn't seem to want to acknowledge that. Nobody asked him, like, why did you keep running the same scheme the entire first half as they're running up and down the field on you? Why did you? No, nobody asked that. That's fine. Okay. So, offensive coordinator, what'd you feel about that interview?
Oh, it was all my fault. I got to do a better job. Even in the Jacksonville game, we won, but there's lots of things I got to improve on. It was all me. He was totally the opposite.
Yeah.
And sucked up and exonerated every offensive player from any responsibility of that game.
The pass defense being Swiss cheese
Mm-hmm.
was effectively because he didn't allow them to get into a rhythm. He was changing things up too much and didn't let them get into a rhythm. He also did say he felt that he got away from the run too soon. And let's see, the rhythm was pass defense, got away from the run too soon. Oh, and the gadget play. Yeah. He had bad timing. Shouldn't have called it there.
Bad call
Bad
for that
calling,
situation.
bad time. He took the blame for all that. Yeah.
All of it. Yeah.
Never once mentioned anything that might be like execution.
And honestly, between those two guys, the two different coordinators, I actually think the best one would be a guy that maybe was probably right in the middle of that. Some of the players got to do a better job, and we're going to address that. And some of the coaching mistakes that I made or my other coaches made, we're going to address that.
Yeah,
I'd like to see that. That's to me would be much more.
I think you would like what you would like is the truth.
The truth.
You would like the truth. Now,
we got a smoke screen from both of them.
What with Brady, I talked earlier, like Brady is very aware that if he blames the players, no way next year he's up for a high coaching job. Right? Like he wants to do well, and next year or the year after, be eligible, be out there interviewing for head coaching jobs. And if you're the kind of guy who just blames the players, that ain't going to go over well. That ain't going to get you to the next level. In fact, it may not even get you another offensive coordinator job if you get fired. Our last offensive coordinator, what the hell is his name?
Mm-hmm. Cable?
No, the gun fired.
Right.
He's now the offensive coordinator. Dorsey. He's now the offensive coordinator at Cleveland. Now that head coach is a Stefanski. He does call his own plays, but at least he's still Dorsey still has the offensive coordinator title. He's still running the practices, and it's an opportunity to learn while keep in the same position. Um, but if you're a guy who makes excuses and blames your players, you lose your locker room fast. So they're in a bad spot where I don't know that they can really say the truth.
Mm-mm.
Belichick is probably the only guy who's got enough clout to be able to sit there and be like, "Yeah, he messed up. Like that is not how we teach it. Whatever." Other than that, they all got to be worried about their next job, and so I'm not sure that these press conferences that really offer much value
Mhm.
at all. Other than there was always a possibility they may slip up. They don't even want to talk about injuries. So uh, if they slipped up and gave you some indication, if McDermott says day to day versus week to week, that's some information about injuries. Otherwise, I don't know what the heck we get out of these. But yet, I watch them. I watch them, or I listen to them. I do, but I don't know that they have much value.
All right. So, do you want to talk about the next game, or we're going to do that in a second
How long will it
video?
take?
I don't think it's going to take that
Let's
long.
do it now. We're here.
All right. You want to hear my take on the next game?
Yeah. So the next tape is Houston. It's an away game. It's a
Another
1 o'clock start,
another way game.
and we're
Yep.
going to get to see our old buddy Stefan Diggs.
Yeah. And they got some good players on that team, Houston,
Besides Stefan Diggs, they do indeed have some good players.
and they got a good quarterback, good young quarterback. They got some running back. They got some defensive players. They're certainly a playoff quality team. And I'll be honest with you, after this disaster on a Monday night for the Bill or on a Sunday night for the Bills, and now they had more injuries that we haven't heard any of the answers
That's
to
true.
yet.
I forget about
And
that.
now they got to get back on a plane and get down to Houston, which cuts out more time for them preparing. I think they're in trouble. I think the Bills are going to lose this game. I don't think they're going to be up for it. I really believe, we've seen the last couple of years, and I don't believe in always looking at the history, but I do have a tendency, I see a tendency in this coaching staff to not be able to get these guys ready after a loss when they didn't think they should be losing and they get their tar beat out of them. They seem to stumble for 2 or 3 weeks in a row.
Okay.
And I think that's going to happen again this time.
Certainly, they have a couple of losses in a row last year.
Mm-hmm.
They did.
They actually ended up at 7-6 before they find it, and they were in second place and had to make a run of 5 straight games to win the division and beat Miami out on the last week of the season. But I think they're going to fall to 3-2 to Houston. I don't think the Bills are scoring over 20 points. I think they're scoring under 20 points.
Well, that's rough.
And who's going to catch it if Shakir can't go? I don't know if he can, but if he's not ready, uh, who are they going to throw it to? Who are they going to throw it to? Curtis Samuels haven't done a damn thing. The tight ends, they threw one to Knox for 0 yards. Never went back to him. Who are they going to throw it to? So, and with all those injuries on the defense, I think that is it Caleb Williams?
No.
CJ Stroud. I'm sorry, I make that mistake. CJ Stroud. I think he's going to pick the Bills secondary apart. He's got good receivers and he's got a good arm.
Unfortunately, with no now, I don't know how effective Miller would have been, but without him, there may not be much pass rush. So Stroud's ability to just stand there and pick you up, that could be a problem.
And the Bills are right now favored by 1 point on the road. I think they're going to lose by 10 to 15 points. I think it's going to be 30 something to 17.
Okay.
And that's how I feel about the game.
Yeah. I'm also going to pick a loss here. Hopefully not. Well, I'm certainly going to root for them. 28 to 17.
And I don't feel the same when we're talking about the next week going to New York and playing the Jets. The Bills at least will be closer to his home. They'll be in their time zone. It's a division game. They're familiar with these people. And I think that's going to be a different game, providing the injuries.
Well, I'll tell you what, we have the benefit of being able to watch both teams play this weekend before we have to decide how they might do next weekend.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and do that. We don't have to give everything away. All right. Anything else you want to say?
No, I guess I'm going to say hang in there. It's a bad loss, and we're on the when a wave comes, you're now on the downside of that wave. So get ready for a second one, and then maybe we can start to cruise again.
I tell you what, before the season started, one of the things that we both pointed to, the 3 away games
Mhm.
out here. But we kind of did look at that 6th game and be like, look, after 6 weeks, we're gonna have a pretty good idea what this team is.
Yeah.
I really thought 3-3, but not everybody did. So
I was
that's
thinking,
where my 500 came
I
from.
was thinking at worst 4-2, maybe
Yeah.
5-1.
And you still have that's still on the table. So
The ability, I just don't think it. I think 4-2 maybe.
I'm a little
We'll see.
concerned that Baltimore saw 3 games worth of tape, and I
They
think
laid
that
a blueprint on how to beat
that's
the Bills.
well, I think that what Brady was doing to get guys open is now been
Mhm.
everybody now can watch it. It's not just watching what Baltimore did because not everybody's got
Yeah.
Baltimore's players,
Arizona did
but
it.
they saw how they played against Arizona, and they saw what they did and how they played against Miami, and they saw what they did and how they played against Jacksonville. And now defensive coordinators have a lot of history to look at and go, "Oh, I know what you're doing. Disguise it how you want. I know what you're doing."
Mhm.
Let's see how it goes.
And we're watching. I'm hearing other reporters talking about how the Bills may not be out of it because look at all the injuries on the other teams. The Kansas City just lost their best wide receiver, and Patrick Mahomes is not playing up to the same, and the defense on Kansas City isn't quite the same, and this Cincinnati's not playing well. You know what? They're saying that we're in it because of attrition.
Of other teams.
So at this point, unless it's going to be a battle of attrition, who gets their players back? But when you look at a team like Baltimore, what they did to us, they can do again, and they play like a Pittsburgh Steelers team.
Well, they're in the same division. So
Yes, and I mean
Listen.
they're also what 3-0, 4-0, whatever they are.
Kansas City may not be playing as well, but they're also 23-0. They've won games.
4-0.
4-0. Cincinnati has lost games, but may very well play better. My point is, we may have seen the best of the Bills already. That those first 3 games, that might be it.
Well,
that might
we're going to know
be
what
the
they're.
best of the
We're
season.
going to know what they're made of.
Yeah.
This injury supported team. By injuries, I mean the players that are playing are replacing injured players. And are they good enough to win games? And maybe not the most important games. And that's what I'm afraid of this week.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Good luck, everyone. Have a great week. We will see you next week.
Yeah. Enjoy the game.
Unless somebody else gets this.
Yeah, right. Who knows? Right?
Or the Bills make a trade.
Yeah, sure they will.
Bye, everyone.